are you?
So so nice to see you.
How are you?
Very well, very well. Have you had a good week?
joining us.
A big deal in the development community for us. And then we've had a number of interesting bilateral.
Congratulations. How are you? Good to see you.
Are we heading around this way?
Just a little bit of background. I'm an American, as you know. I have been going to Georgia for over a decade, and because of that, closer to 15 years now, have an institutional memory about Georgia that many foreigners who go there now don't have. But I remember a Georgia where you couldn't walk on the streets at night. You had to fill your bathtub with water so that you would have enough water for cleaning or washing or cooking over the course of the day. And over the last 10 or 15 years, we've seen a Georgia that is now a dynamic, exciting place where things function, where rule of law is getting stronger with each passing week and month. And that is a credit to many of the people here in this room. I just want to also add that you will hear a lot and have a chance to read a lot about the indicators of what a good place Georgia is to do business, what a good place Georgia is to invest. That captures, those are all true, but it doesn't really capture all of it. Georgia is also a great place to do business and invest because it's a place where foreigners, particularly Americans, are welcome. You never feel unsafe, you never feel unwelcome, you never feel someone saying, hey, get out of here, that you have no business being here. And it's a place where the assistance and the financial and otherwise that we can offer to help Georgia in its path is appreciated. I'm not going to speak for a long time today because I don't think you all came to this room to hear a ersatz academic talk about Georgia. I want to introduce our first speaker, the Prime Minister of Georgia, Irakli Gharibashvili.
Good evening, everybody. It's a great pleasure to see you here in New York. I'm really excited. And it's a real pleasure to meet with you here in New York. First of all, I'm deeply grateful you have found time in your busy schedules to join us this evening and learn about the endless possibilities for investing in our country. And if I have one regret here tonight, it is that I'm not greeting you in my beautiful country. And if you've already been, you know that it is a real gem. And if you haven't had a chance to visit Georgia, it will catch you by surprise. So my plan tonight is to give you a brief overview of all the wonderful things Georgia has to offer. And I also want to make sure each of you has plenty of time to speak with me and members of my economic team I have asked to join me tonight. With me are our new Minister of Foreign Affairs, Vice Prime Minister, Mr. Gharibashvili. He used to be he's a former Minister of Economy. Also, Mikhail Janelidze, our new Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and former Deputy Minister of Economy. Vice Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development, Ketevan Bochorishvili. Georgia's Ambassador to the United States, Mr. Archil Gegeshidze, everybody knows him. And the head of the Embassy's Commercial Section and the former head of Enterprise Georgia, Mr. Georgi Zikolia, and also Ms. Anna Kvaratskhelia, who is the Acting Director of Enterprise Georgia. So we are here today, and I want to repeat what I've said many times, that our country is another world compared to 2 decades ago, or even 2 or 3 years ago. I've said this many times, and I want to repeat, dear friends, that every aspect of our country, let's say from health and education to political stability and national security, and especially for the purpose of tonight's event, economic development, has progressed in leaps and bounds. In the recent years, my country has been going through significant transformation in terms of establishment of a country based on the Western principles of democracy, rule of law, and free market economy. And we have steadfastly pursued Western integration, forging deep relationships with the European Union, NATO, and the United States. In many ways, Georgia owes, I would say, much of its progress to the support of the American people and the United States government and business community. We are thankful for the support and cooperation and have always considered the United States as the most important strategic partners in the world. And tonight I must say a special welcome to Dana Hyde, the CEO of the US Millennium Challenge Corporation. Please greet. The MCC has been at the forefront of building the US-Georgian relationship. And most recently, we inaugurated a new program by which Georgian students can obtain a US engineering degree from San Diego State University without even living in Georgia. So with MCC assistance, we are fulfilling our promise to build an educated workforce to help Georgia becoming a truly modern economy. So today, I want to give you some facts, some real statistics, and some detailed information about our country. You already know that we are a small country, but with a very important strategic location. Country of nearly 4 million, with enormous economic potential. We're a democracy, which is the most important thing. According to the World Bank, we are one of the easiest countries in the world to do business in. We believe in a free, open, and transparent business environment. We have the 4th lowest tax burdens in the world, and we have eradicated corruption. Over the last 3 or 5 years, we have attracted billions of FDI, and unemployment has dropped. In fact, I have to say that we are currently experiencing unprecedented growth of foreign direct investment inflow into Georgia. Total FDI reached $1.750 billion US in 2014. And this is not only 87% increase compared to 2013, but also the highest yearly indicator in the last 7 years. And with the goal of providing greater support to new market entrants, 2 multi-billion investment funds have been established 2 years ago. Actually, the partnership fund was established several years ago, but the new Georgian co-investment fund was established 3 years ago. The partnership fund provides state funds to selected projects and is open to discussing strategic forms of public-private partnership. As for the co-investment fund, it draws its funds from private equity and includes shareholders like the Abu Dhabi Group, Ras Al Khaimah Investment Authority from United Arab Emirates, and other major funds. So we have universal healthcare and a strong educational system, meaning a healthy and intelligent workforce. The major credit rating agencies view us as stable and positive. Our rule of law is strong and constantly improving. Any business disputes are settled fairly without government interference. And I think this is the most important achievement of our government, that the court today in Georgia is absolutely free and free from government interference. In a major accomplishment, dear friends, yesterday the World Bank released its comprehensive new report on governance, and we topped the charts. Since 2012, Georgia jumped 16 places in the voice and accountability category, 22 places in political stability, also government efficiency and absence of violence, terrorism, and etc. 13 places in regulatory equality, 19 places in rule of law, and 23 places in control of corruption. Of particular importance, Thank you. And of particular importance, Georgia sits in the middle of a vast free network. We have free trade agreements with the European Union, Turkey and Russia, and the rest of the former Soviet states, so-called CIS countries. We are currently negotiating new free trade agreements with the United States and China. In fact, I just returned from China, and we may soon become one of the only European nations with a free trade agreement with China. Now I want to say a few words about the revitalization of the old Silk Road that makes Georgia's position at the center of European-Asia trade increasingly important. Transit networks running through Georgia can bring goods from China to Europe much faster than sea routes. Our country's free trade links allow it to be a major tariff-free regional distribution point. In about 2 weeks, we are hosting the first Tbilisi Silk Road Forum. And there, some regional leaders, ministers, and business will come together to discuss trade, also political and people-to-people relationship across Asia and Europe. And we will focus on cooperation in 4 key areas, which is transport, which is energy, trade, and business-to-business contacts. Deputy U.S. Commerce Secretary Mr. Bruce Andrews will be there in Tbilisi, as well as some leaders from China, Afghanistan, United Arab Emirates, European Union, and CIS countries. Over 300 investors, 200 investors, participants from China will also be attending this event. So this is a high-level forum, and I believe this will be quite interesting. So you're, of course, more than welcome to attend this forum. Now, with the big picture, I'm sorry it's a long speech, but I want to give you as much information as possible. Let me share with you some specific ideas on where the best opportunities in Georgia will be for investors in the coming years. So we have identified 5 sectors for development and investment. One is banking sector, transportation and logistics, energy, tourism, manufacturing, and agro-processing. First, the Georgia's banking sector, dear friends, is one of the most developed in the region. It is well capitalized with high liquidity, and every year there is approximately 20% growth in the number of issued loans. It is well capitalized and possesses high liquidity. The banks are very active, and as evident from the dynamic growth of loans over the last years, averaging an average growth rate of 20%. The total volume of loans by commercial banks in 2014 was over $7.3 billion US. So this sector would great benefit from increased international involvement. The energy sector is attractive in terms of both existing natural resources and developing infrastructure. The country possesses huge hydro resources and offers, I would say, untapped investment potential. In recent years, Georgia has become a major net exporter of electricity and currently utilizes only 20% of its vast hydro resources. And our country's power grid is connected to those of all its neighboring countries, which have either structural, power deficits or expensive power generation. I'll give you a few examples. The Ajaris-Skali, which is in Ajara at the Black Sea, hydro project has completed a $400 million US joint venture, investment. This is the largest ever hydropower investment in Georgia. And this project is a joint venture between India's Tata Power, huge company, also Norway's Clean Energy Invest, and the IFC. And this project will help Georgia achieve energy self-sufficiency. Recently, I also want to give you one more example. I attended the historic ceremony marking the beginning of construction of new 280 megawatt Neskra hydropower plant project. The Georgian State Partnership Fund, in cooperation with South Korean state-owned company, K-Water, will invest $1 billion in construction of the HPP, which will produce 1.2 billion kilowatts of electricity per hour annually. This is about energy. Now about the manufacturing sector. It also offers a great opportunity for greenfield investment with Georgia's new free trade agreement with the European Union, also its existing FTAs with Turkey and other countries in the region. We can offer the right platform for regional distribution. And in particular, there are significant business opportunities for processing primary agricultural goods into higher value-added products and supplying equipment and services such as greenhouses, storage, deep freeze facilities, packaging, etc. So for those looking to invest in agriculture, since June 2014, a special state support program has been enacted. It's called Produce in Georgia. The program is devised to support industrial manufacturing and agri-processing through several instruments, including co-financing of the interest rates on the commercial loans extended by private local commercial banks, co-financing of the interest rates on the leased equipment, also provided by private leasing companies, and transfer of state property, both land and building, into the private ownership for a symbolic price of $1 lari, with certain investment obligations. Tourism. It is another field which has witnessed significant growth in recent years and is considered an important economic development driver and job creator as well as revenue generator. While a small country, Georgia offers a huge variety of tourism activities, including beaches, skiing, vineyards, ancient cave cities, beautiful mountains and nature preserves, and Tbilisi's historic old city. Georgia is a four-seasons destination. Our country's history as a cradle of wine and cuisine, some of which you may have already said, have sampled tonight. It has a potential of further expanding wine and, as we say, gourmet tourism as well. In fact, Georgia saw approximately 5 million tourists in the last year, more tourists than actual Georgians, with massive double-digit growth from Eastern Europeans, Russians, and Middle Eastern nations. Also want to tell you that hotel occupancy is usually above over 75%. With regard to logistics, the new Baku-Tbilisi-Kars railroad is designated to connect Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey, which will allow the efficient delivery of containers, freight and passenger traffic from Asia to Europe 45% faster. Coupled with the rehabilitation and construction of major highways, these initiatives complement other projects to connect all of Europe and Asia. And I also want to talk to you about one particular project. This is Irakli port. Related to this, I want to tell you that we are going to build a new port, a new deep sea water port on the Black Sea coast, which will be constructed in 7 phases, and it will be able to handle over 100 million tons of cargo per year. And the new port will bring Georgia's logistical capabilities to a new level. This is our expectation. So, in conclusion, dear friends, I want to briefly tell you once again that I sincerely hope that today's event will pave way for further cooperation between our countries and deepen our interest towards Georgia. And of course, I'd like to invite you all to visit our country, our beautiful country, and experience its opportunities firsthand. It's very important to see our beautiful country. And I also want to tell you that you have my personal assistance and my government's personal assistance. We're going to support in terms of starting and operating business in Georgia to you, to your partners, and any foreign investors. So let me end where I began. I'm really excited to be here this evening. Thank you very much for joining us. Georgia is really a gem of a nation, as we say. We're stable, strong, and open. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. It is a delight to be here this evening. The Prime Minister spoke of the fantastic Georgian wine, and I know that the only thing that stands between you and that wine is my speech, so I will be brief here. But I want to say how delightful it is to be here on behalf of the U.S. government to celebrate the ties between our two nations and the long-standing partnership between Georgia and the Millennium Challenge Corporation. Mr. Prime Minister, I want to thank you in particular for your leadership in supporting our work, as well as our shared commitment to creating opportunities for the people of Georgia. I also want to acknowledge and thank USAID for their critical work in helping to strengthen the business sector through the G4G program. And at the center of both of our efforts are the many private sector partners that are represented here this evening. Businesses like yours represent the engines that drive Georgia's economy and that help lift its people out of poverty. Before I begin, however, I would like to extend, on behalf of the United States, my deepest condolences to the Georgia people for the loss of one of your brave sons last week in Afghanistan. Our hearts and our prayers go out to his family, friends, and fellow soldiers, and the United States stands with Georgia as it mourns its loss. So thank you. Georgia has long recognized the importance of creating an environment that is supportive of economic growth. The Prime Minister spoke of many statistics. Let me just bring one to life. In 2004, Georgia ranked 112th on the International Finance Corporation's Ease of Doing Business Index. In 2015, Georgia ranked 15th. So that is an incredible rise that speaks to the progress that has been made over the last decade. MCC's partnership has built on this progress to strengthen the foundation for businesses to grow. MCC's first compact in Georgia improved more than 200 kilometers of road in southwest Georgia to facilitate regional trade, which you spoke of. It helped repair the country's natural gas pipeline to support Georgia's energy independence. And we helped provide much needed capital and technical assistance to more than 280 small businesses that helped create over 3,000 jobs in the agricultural sector. So I just wanted to share with all of you one story behind those numbers. Nino is a businesswoman with a small agricultural supply store in Mestia, and she received one of our early matching grants. She used those funds to vastly expand her inventory. She added floor space and fertilizer. She even built a training facility for farmers in the region. She turned that business into a full-fledged farm center. So for Nino, this was an incredible opportunity to expand her store and her profit margins, but in doing so, she supported her entire community and she helped hundreds of farmers in the regions. And at MCC, we like to think that's the kind of story that we're looking for in terms of growth with the right conditions that can help create results for the people. So we are well on our way to that same path of empowerment, which you spoke of in our second investment, which we just started. The goal of the second compact is simple. It's to invest in Georgia's people so that they have the skills that they need to have good paying jobs. This means helping to close the gap in supply and demand of Georgian workers. And that gap is especially wide in Georgia and throughout the globe, as we know, in the STEM fields: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So we've worked closely with the government and consulted widely with the companies, and we have come up with a project that is a partnership between San Diego State University to provide Georgian students with a world-class education in STEM. I was honored to attend the signing ceremony with the Prime Minister last year. And this fall, I'm proud to say that for the first time, students in Georgia will begin a 4-year SDSU accredited degree in Tbilisi with the same standards that you would have in Southern California. And to expand this opportunity to more students, the university is also working with other universities to ensure that they could also receive their STEM degrees, but also see if we can make that a regional hub in the area. None of this would be possible without our public and our private sector partners. And as we go forward, we will increasingly rely on the private sector to succeed. We want to work closely with businesses in tailoring our higher education and vocational education investments to the skills they need to be competitive in jobs in Georgia. I think we have a real opportunity to work together. And let me just end on a personal note. I did have the pleasure of visiting Tbilisi, and you have such a warm culture and a warm people and a warm tradition of toasts. So while we do not have drinks here, I understand we will shortly. Let me just end with a toast to the prosperity, the partnership, and continued economic opportunity between our nations and our people and the people in this room. Thank you very much.
I want to, just before we get to the wine tasting and the opportunity to speak to the representatives of the Georgian government and the Prime Minister, I want to thank three companies that have sponsored this event, and they really deserve our gratitude. The first is the Silk Road Group, and we can see this placard there. They've been operating in Georgia for about 20 years. Originally the transportation company. They've invested over $500 million in Georgia and employ about 4,500 people. So this is a major Georgian business that has really done great work. We've spoken a lot about Georgian hospitality, and I think of myself as the beneficiary of a lot of Georgian hospitality over the years, and we've also heard the Prime Minister urge you to come visit Georgia. If you haven't done that, I would second that. But if you do visit Georgia, the Ajara Group is one of the leading probably the leading hospitality business in Georgia, and has really not just the best hotels in Georgia, but some of the best hotels, certainly some of the best urban hotels in the world. And I've been told by many people, some Georgian, some American, who I've just run into on the street, that the Rooms Kazbegi is one of these hotels that you have to go to. If you spend one more night in a hotel, you should spend it there. So I'm hoping that sometimes I have an opportunity to go there, because when I'm there, I'm often stuck in Tbilisi and Batumi. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Our third sponsor is Schultz Global Investments. This is an American firm that has invested tens, hundreds of millions of dollars in Georgia. And they are a private equity firm, and they've done a lot of great work there and have been very helpful. So I want to, we're now on the cusp of the less formal part of the evening. I want to introduce Lisa Granick, who's going to discuss a little about Georgian wine, something in which we might all be interested in. Thank you.
What really is me between you and the wines. So I'll make this very, very brief. People say to me, because I first went to Georgia in 1990, and they say, what is it? You're a master of wine. There's Burgundy, there's Bordeaux. What is it to you about Georgian wine? There are a couple of different things. Number one, there is no country that has the history of wine that Georgia has. There's archaeological evidence for at least 8,000 years of winemaking, grape growing. The evidence is that Georgia is, as the Prime Minister said, the cradle of wine, where man first tamed vis vinifera to the drink that we know and, I think, love very much. That's number one. Number two is Georgia is home to at least 525 distinct varieties. Now, only about 45 or so of those are actually in current commercial production, and we only have 4 wines, so you're only going to be able to experience a couple of them tonight. But they are beautiful, expressive, distinctive varieties that provide tremendous enjoyment. It's another thing that's so different about Georgia. You can talk about French pedigree or the California lifestyle, but it's hard to convey when you go from east to west and west to east in Georgia how the grapevine is everywhere, winding through the streets of Tbilisi, my friends, their backyards, their patios. The vine is everywhere. It is part of Georgia like almost nothing else. And it's very hard to convey what that is unless you go there and actually see it, to enjoy the wines for yourself. Now, Georgian wines are primarily made, broadly speaking, in two different ways. There's sort of the traditional, now it's traditional, conventional European style of winemaking with stainless steel and temperature-controlled fermentation. But Georgia has one of the oldest, or the oldest, method of winemaking, where the wine was, the grapes and some of the stems, the skins and the seeds are chucked into the qvevri, what is effectively we might call an amphora. The grapes are thrown in and left in the ground to sit and ferment over the course of months, depending on the style of wine. It is used for both red wines and white wines, and it makes a very different style of wine. The red wines, in some ways, are not that different from some of the finest wines in the world. The white wines are going to be different because they tend to be amber in color, and they are going to have tannins because the tannins come from the skins and the seeds, and there was that extended period of skin contact. So we're going to have 4 different wines that are going to reflect all of these different methods of winemaking. The first wine is a Bagration sparkling wine. So that's going to be basically, it's 4 different grape varieties, but made in a stainless steel tank under pressure-controlled conditions in the way that modern sparkling wines are made throughout the world. The second wine, which is a Tzvane, which means green in Georgian, that's the grape variety. Again, modern winemaking, crisp, clean, vibrant, a little spicy. I think it's delicious. The third wine is also a Tzvane. We chose 2 wines, same grape variety, so you can see the difference between a European production and the qvevri production. So the Vinoterra Tzvane from qvevri, basically 5 months of skin contact in the qvevri. It's a wine that you will drink at room temperature because otherwise the chalky tannins could be a little too aggressive. And then the last wine is also a qvevri wine. They're beautiful when it's room temperature, but when the white wines, when the qvevri wines are white wines are cold, you get a little too much tannin. The last wine is also a qvevri wine. It's an Orgo Saperavi. It's the grape variety. Saperavi comes from the Georgian word sap. Okay, sapere. It means to dye, to deeply colored. If you think Cabernet Sauvignon or Syrah is deeply colored, think again. This is going to be an inky, intensely fruity, very elegant, refined wine that I encourage you to taste all the wines, but I really, as everyone has said, these wines, they're going to taste wonderful tonight. They'll be delicious, but they do taste better in Georgia. So I strongly encourage you to taste them there. The one last thing I'm going to say, which I think is really important to think about, is that winemaking is one of, when economists look at a country, winemaking is one of those odd industries that really covers every aspect of an economy, from agriculture to the logistics to hospitality and services. So when you are drinking Georgian wine, you are supporting every aspect of the Georgian economy. And I think that's something that is worth thinking about. Enjoy the wines. Thank you very much.